Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane. I'm your host, Shane Fordham. We're all the shameless sports takes. Now, the Cowboys and the Steelers engaged in probably one of the biggest trades of the offseason, one of the most random trades of the offseason. Steelers offloading George Pickens to the Cowboys. Now, this was a terrible trade for the Steelers, but a great pickup for the Cowboys. Starting with the Steelers, I I don't understand. I'm very confused. Like you the Steelers trade George Pickens apparently for his behavioral problems. I mean, it's no surprise, if you watch George Pickens play, you know he's got crash out tendencies. I mean, like he's definitely his cleats might as well be black Air Forces. Like yeah, that's not a surprise. Like he definitely has that energy on the field, but nothing bad enough to where he's worth trading away. Like in terms of what we see on the field, nothing demonstrated that he was a toxic a toxic personality in the locker room. Maybe a guy that was a little aggressive, guy that was aggressive in practice, but I mean that usually just makes your teammates better. Like it makes your guy the guys around you want to play harder, you know. But apparently Mike Tomlin thought it was his attitude, his behavior was a risk to the team. It wasn't Omar Khan who made the call. It was Mike Tomlin who made the call, which is surprising because I thought Pickens was a Tomlin guy. Thought he was a Tomlin guy. So really surprising. But I'm seeing a pattern with the way the Steelers treat their receivers. Like if you notice, the Steelers usually always have good receivers on their offense. I mean, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool for a stint, Deontay Johnson, now George Pickens. Like the Steelers for the last really almost 10 years have been a team that always had a potent threat at the receiver position. But it seems like there's always a pattern here. I mean, if you look at most of the guys I just mentioned, Antonio Brown, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, all three of those guys were traded for the same reason: behavioral issues. All three of those guys traded for the same thing. Now, Antonio Brown, look, I mean, I don't think Antonio Brown aged well, especially when he left Pittsburgh. But when he was in Pittsburgh, like it's not like the bad mood came out of nowhere. Like it's not like it came out of nowhere. Like Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. I mean, that seems odd to me. Like it's weird how all of these top guys in the receiver room were traded from the Steelers for the exact same reason. And it really, if I'm looking at all of these situations, including George Pickens now, there's really only one common denominator. It's the Steelers. It's the Steelers. Like, there's only one common denominator all of these guys had in common. There's only one thing. It's the Steelers organization. Like, and if you look at this Steelers organization, you could see that they have, I mean, you can see how the way they handle their quarterback position could cause some issues with the pass catchers. Like, I mean, if you're looking at this group, Antonio Brown, okay, he didn't age really, like his issues, didn't really age well after the Steelers, but during the Steelers, Antonio Brown wasn't a huge issue, at least from what we could see. He wasn't a huge issue. I mean, he spoke up when things weren't going right. That's what great players are supposed to do. AJ Brown did that for the Eagles this year and last year. He spoke. That's what leaders on the team do. AJ Brown, when Kellen Moore wasn't looking his way in the offensive scheme, because of all the touches Saquon Barkley was getting, AJ Brown spoke up. When the Eagles weren't as productively offensively last year during our collapse, AJ Brown spoke up. That's not him being a cancer to the team. That's not him being a bad teammate. That's him being a leader. That's him being a leader. Him being the superstar that he is, having the pull that he does, the influence that he does. He used his voice to vocalize issues that were going on with the offense. Antonio Brown did the same thing with the Steelers. That's no different than what Antonio Brown did in Pittsburgh. Big Ben, his age just started taking over, and you see the decline within the last 2 years he was in Pittsburgh. Antonio Brown spoke up about it. That's his teammate. He's supposed to be able to communicate like that to his quarterback. Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson, their attitude problems weren't noticeable at all. Those trades definitely seemed more sudden than the Antonio Brown trade and this George Pickens trade. Aside from Antonio Brown, these last three these huge receiver trades for the Steelers were very sudden. Very sudden. Especially when you look at Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, George Pickens, we saw who the type of guy he was on the field. He was a guy that would get chirpy. He would talk, he would be vocal. It doesn't make sense to me how we can confuse being vocal for having behavioral issues. I don't see how that mistake can be made. But if you're looking at the one thing that all of these guys had in common, it was the Steelers organization. You can't tell me that these guys don't have the right to be a little upset. There were no signs to me that Deontay Johnson or Chase Claypool had attitude issues. Antonio Brown, we know he was vocal. George Pickens, doesn't surprise me that he was vocal, probably in practice and in the locker room. But do you blame him? Can we really sit here and blame these guys for being vocal, when it comes to the team play? If you're looking at this Steelers offense, the Steelers haven't had a true quarterback, really since a true franchise quarterback since 2018. Since Ben Roethlisberger. The Steelers haven't had a true, they haven't had a dynamic thrower of the football since 2018. Since before Ben Roethlisberger got hurt and before he eventually retired. That's almost, we're hitting that 10-year mark now. We're getting close to 10 years since Big Ben was in his late prime on the Steelers, at the end of his career. Since Big Ben, this offense has had to work with guys like Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph. Do you blame these guys for being a little upset? Can you really blame them? Bro, Antonio Brown had to deal with a declining Ben Roethlisberger, who was also injured. Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool had to deal with Mason Rudolph for a time. George Pickens had to deal with Kenny Pickett. Aside from Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, George Pickens had to deal with Kenny Pickett. Do you blame these guys for being upset? These guys got every right to be upset. And George Pickens, looking at George Pickens specifically, George Pickens specifically really doesn't even make sense to me. This makes less sense than any of the other trades. Apparently, Omar Khan released a statement saying that they traded them trading George Pickens was a fresh start for the Steelers. A fresh start? Drafting George Pickens was the fresh start. That was the fresh start. Like, this isn't like trading Antonio Brown after his ninth year in Pittsburgh, where you feel like you haven't really been able to get someone that can throw him the ball. So why not flip him into an asset, to bring more of a future to the team. We're not talking about an aging Antonio Brown. George Pickens, he's coming off his third year. And in those 3 years that he's been a Steeler, George Pickens has been the highlight of this offense. He hasn't had a year where he's had below 800 receiving yards. Year one with Kenny Pickett, he gets 800 yards. Year two with Kenny Pickett, he gets over 1,100 yards. Then year three, he actually has a decent quarterback in Russell Wilson, and then a guy who I believe could be something, in my opinion, in Justin Fields. He racks up 900 yards. Like, George Pickens is a guy who consistently produces no matter who his quarterback is. To me, George Pickens has every right to be upset that the QB situation in Pittsburgh has been shaky. Like, looking at his 3 productive seasons, now heading into his 4th, the Steelers don't bring back Russell Wilson. They don't bring back Justin Fields, leaving Mason Rudolph as their only quarterback on the depth chart, leaving him as QB1. You're telling me George Pickens doesn't have a right to be a little upset about that? He's been productive every year in Pittsburgh. But when he gets upset that they are not trying to capitalize off of these prime years of his in his career, it's a problem. Like, he has behavioral issues because he's upset. Like, that he's upset because the Steelers are wasting his years. Like, he has every right to be upset. The Steelers this offseason really just showed no regard for capitalizing off of George Pickens' success. Just no regard. Before this trade, you don't re-sign Russell Wilson. You don't re-sign Justin Fields. 2 capable quarterbacks, especially when talking about Russell Wilson, who still got some gas left in the tank, especially as a starting quarterback. Justin Fields, who has some potential in his athleticism, in his arm strength. So you not only don't sign those 2 guys, but then you also don't do anything during the draft to rectify your quarterback situation. The Steelers had every chance in this draft to bring in a capable thrower of the football for George Pickens and DK Metcalf. They had every chance to make George Pickens happy in Pittsburgh. You have the Steelers had a shot at the second best quarterback arguably the best quarterback in this draft class. And they pick up a defensive tackle in Derek Harmon. Not to say Derek Harmon isn't a good pickup, but it's not a good pickup when Mason Rudolph is your number 1 overall quarterback and Shedeur Sanders is still on the board. It's a terrible pick. Situationally, that was a terrible pick. Then you trade away your 2nd round pick in the draft. 3rd round rolls around. You not only have a shot at Shedeur Sanders again, you even have a shot at Jalen Milroe, which still would have been better than picking up a running back like they did in the 3rd round. So in the 3rd round, you not only have a second chance at Shedeur, you also have a shot in a quarterback who has a pretty high ceiling, a very high ceiling in terms of potential in Jalen Milroe, just off of his physical gifts. You look past both of those guys to get a running back. As deep as this running back class is, you draft a running back third overall when you have absolutely no quarterback in your QB room. Like, you just, bro, you get DK Metcalf. You now have arguably one of the best receiver duos in the NFL, a top 5 receiver duo in the AFC. You do nothing to bring in a capable quarterback. George Pickens had every right to be upset. Like, if he really did have attitude issues, attitude problems, especially during this offseason that made Mike Tomlin want to pull the trigger on him, he had every right to be upset. Like, who wouldn't be upset? You're coming off of two back-to-back productive years, which is even more impressive considering what your quarterback situation has been since you've been in Pittsburgh. And the Steelers do nothing to capitalize off of your productivity, off of your success. Like, this, honestly, bro, it blows my mind. Like, what did you expect him? Like, did you just expect him to be quiet? Like, to just be, I believe in Mason. I think we got a shot at the playoffs this year. Like, what did you think? What did you think he was gonna say? So now you not only basically isolate or alienate George Pickens, you now make this an uncomfortable work situation and environment for DK Metcalf, your brand new addition. So now you're putting him in a position where your brand new target, your brand new flashy target, you're putting him in a position where he is now coming into the season with low morale, with very low expectations. What expectations could you possibly hope that DK Metcalf has coming into this season? So I can already tell the Steelers are going to repeat their pattern with receiver issues in DK Metcalf, because you brought him into a situation where there was hopes that where he had another guy he had a running mate on the opposite side of the field who would be able to stretch, where the field would now be a little more stretched out, making it easier for both of them to produce, while also having the potential of bringing in a capable thrower of the football, a capable quarterback, behind a decent O-line, with also a decent tight end in Pat Freiermuth. He came into a very hopeful situation. A team that had a capable, really a receiver one caliber player on the opposite side of the field, a capable tight end in Pat Freiermuth, a decent O-line, the potential and hopes and ability to get a capable QB in this draft or in the offseason, with a top 5 defense in the NFL playing on the opposite side of the ball. You go from that to now not having really any other dangerous pass catcher on the field. Because without George Pickens, I mean, Pat Freiermuth isn't going to be really worrying defenses. You now have Mason Rudolph as your starting quarterback, as your QB1, with now a defense that is going to be backed up against the wall almost every game because their offense can't stay on the field. An offense that now won't be able to stay on the field, which will keep the defense on the field longer, wearing them down. This was not the situation that was advertised to DK Metcalf. This was not at all. Like, this was not at all the situation that was advertised to DK Metcalf. So now I can already tell that now if DK Metcalf says something about the lack of productivity on the offense, he's going to be seen as an issue in the locker room. This receiver one, this really superstar caliber receiver is going to be labeled as a locker room cancer because he's speaking up, or he will speak up about the lack in productivity from an offense that doesn't have a capable QB1, that doesn't have really any other potent weapon on the offense, and that has a defense that has to spend, a defense that can't stay off the field because their offense is getting 4 and outs or 3 and outs almost every possession. This is this is honestly the Steelers. The Steelers are really just cycling through a pattern here. Like, you're looking at all of the good to great receivers that they have let go. Antonio Brown, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, now George Pickens, what will be inevitably DK Metcalf based on the current situation. There is one common denominator, and it's the Steelers. So I have no idea what the Steelers are thinking in this situation. So it was a terrible trade for the Steelers, but it was a great pickup for the Cowboys. A pleasant surprise. A great pickup for the Cowboys. What's crazy is this was such a bad move for the Steelers that it made Jerry Jones actually pull off a good move in the offseason. Bro, the Steelers made such a bad trade that it was a good trade for Jerry Jones. A guy who clearly has just given up on improving this Cowboys team during his tenure for the rest of the time he has as the Cowboys GM. So bad a move for the Steelers, it made Jerry Jones look like a good GM once again. Like, that's crazy to me, but great pickup by Jerry. Great pickup by Jerry. You pair a receiver one in George Pickens with one of the best overall receivers in the NFL in CeeDee Lamb, providing more of an arsenal for Dak Prescott. It just, it's honestly, it's a great pickup. It's a great pickup. This duo between George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, this might be the best receiver duo Dak Prescott has had since Amari Cooper. Since Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. It very well might be. George Pickens is no doubt. If George Pickens could produce the way he was with Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, even Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, if he can produce with those guys, there's no doubt he's going to be putting up some big numbers with Dak Prescott. Even though they may not get to the NFC Championship game, Pickens is at least going to put up numbers because, if Dak Prescott ain't going to win a playoff game, he's going to stat pad. he may not win you some playoff games, but he's going to get his receivers the ball. He's going to get his receivers the ball. He's going to put up some numbers in the garbage minutes of the game, to pad up them stats. So this is definitely going to be one of the best receiver duos in the NFL. It's just I'm interested in seeing. If I'm looking at this duo and where it ranks in the NFC, this duo is easily a top 5 duo in the NFC alone. Number 1, I got to go the Eagles. Got to go the Eagles with number 1. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. 2 Super Bowl appearances in the past 3 years, 1 Super Bowl victory this coming year, this past season. AJ Brown, obviously to my opinion, not even opinion. AJ Brown being a top 3 receiver in the NFL, arguably. Devontae Smith being a receiver one caliber guy, a guy who would be the number one receiver on most other teams, unless you're the Bengals, the Vikings, the Bucks. Like there's more the Lions, like there's more teams he would be the receiver one for than there are teams where he would be the receiver two. So got to give them number one. Number two, the Vikings. I mean, Justin Jefferson speaks for him. That speaks for him. That speaks for himself. Arguably the best receiver in the game right now, putting up over 1,500 yards this past season. Him and Jordan Addison combining for 2,300 yards. You got the Bucks, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. When those two are healthy, that's enough. I mean, those two are enough to make the Bucks a playoff caliber team. Have helped make redeem Baker Mayfield's career. Not to take credit away from Baker, but that's an elite receiver duo for sure. One of the best in the NFL. Mike Evans setting the record for most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to start his career. Chris Godwin being an elite number two. Then can't forget about the Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams combining for over 2,200 yards. I mean, Amon-Ra can really just do about everything in terms of receiver. He can play the slot. He can be an X receiver. Jameson Williams just has the speed to tear the top off of a defense, or can also be used in sort of those sweet plays. He can be a guy that gets the ball behind the line of scrimmage and turn it up the field for a 40+ yard touchdown run. We saw him do that a few times this year. I would say I would feel comfortable putting CD and George Pickens in that top 5 group. I would feel comfortable with that. Eagles, Vikings, Bucks, Lions, Cowboys. Easy. So it's going to be interesting to see, exactly what this Cowboys offense can do. But of course, the variable is going to be Dak Prescott. Like this move, the Cowboys acquiring George Pickens, it really just puts more pressure on Dak Prescott to perform. Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying Dak Prescott has to get to the NFC Championship game this year or it's a bust or he's trash because of how competitive the NFC is going to be this year. I mean, the Eagles, the Vikings, even under a JJ McCarthy regime, a healthy San Francisco 49ers team, Ayuk, Kittle, healthy C-Mac, a emerging Commanders team, adding Debo to the mix. The Lions, how much of a force they were last year, and that was with a lot of their guys being injured. So a healthy Lions team now, a Packers team, a young Packers team, adding another weapon to their offensive arsenal in Matthew Golden. Great pickup for them. Great weapon to combine with Jordan Love. So the Bucks, like the NFC is going to be a competitive race this year for playoffs. So I'm not saying Dak Prescott has to make the NFC Championship game this year, but it's the pressure is going to be on him. Not to say he has to get to the NFC Championship game this year, because this team could still use some additional pieces, but he's got the tools he needs to get there. Like he does have the tools he needs to get there. He has a dynamic receiver duo in CD and George Pickens, top 5 receiver duo in the NFC, top 7 to 8 in the NFL. He's got a solid running back room in Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. He's got a O-line. We know he's got an O-line. He's got a tight end in Ferguson coming back this year. He's got tools on offense to make it to a conference championship game. Not saying he has to, just because of how deep the NFC is going to be this year and how competitive it's going to be this year, but he's got the tools to get there. He does have the tools to get there. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do this year. But I mean, no matter what he does this year, he's still not going to prove that he's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's still, no matter what he does this year, he's still not going to prove that he's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. There's just no way. And anyone who still believes that a healthy Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts is delusional. It's just delusional. Like like if you care more about his flashy stats that he's had in the past, leading the league in passing yards, being an MVP candidate, you know, like if you care about the stats but disregard the fact that he only has 2 playoff wins since he's been in the league for almost 10 years now, only 2 playoff wins, has been in the league for twice the amount of time that Jalen Hurts has been in the league. And in that amount of time, Jalen Hurts already has 2 Super Bowl appearances and is coming off of a Super Bowl win. You're delusional. If you're willing to overlook all of that and say Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, you're either a Cowboys fan or you're delusional. But that's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. And I will be back later on with more shameless takes.